Whatever you think you know about tech spending, just throw it out the window. Because what's happening right now isn't just investment. It's a full-blown AI arms race, a high-stakes battle for computational supremacy with a price tag that is, frankly, just insane. And to help us wrap our heads around all this madness, we're going to let AI itself be our guide. So, hey there. It looks like your human creators are building a wildly expensive and chaotic world for you. Let's dive in and see what all that money is really buying. All right, so every war starts with a declaration. And in this case, it was a declaration of financial force. This first stage is all about the shock and awe of the investment. I mean, it's a gold rush on a scale we have literally never seen before. Just look at this number, $700 billion. That's how much the four biggest tech companies, the hyperscalers, are planning to spend on AI infrastructure in 2026 alone. And no, that is not a typo. So, how does that unbelievable number break down? Well, Amazon is leading the pack, committing a jaw-dropping $200 billion. Google is right there with them at $185 billion, and Meta's throwing in up to $135 billion. I mean, these aren't just investments anymore. They're bets the size of some countries' entire economies. But it's not just the total amount, it's the sheer speed of it all. This represents a more than 60% surge from what were already record-breaking spending levels just last year. The fire is raging, and they are just pouring more and more gasoline on it. And spending like this, it has some very real consequences. It's gotten so extreme that Morgan Stanley is now projecting that Amazon, the king of cash flow, will actually have a negative cash flow, a deficit of nearly $17 billion. They are literally willing to go into the red to win this thing. So where is all this money going? Well, it's being used to build up their arsenals, to fund the biggest players, to completely overhaul existing products, and to forge some really powerful new alliances. Let's just take OpenAI as an example. They just closed what might be the largest private funding round in history, $110 billion. And get this, look who's cutting the checks. Amazon's in for $50 billion, with SoftBank and the chip king itself, NVIDIA, each kicking in another $30 billion. And here's what that kind of cash gets you. OpenAI now has 900 million people using its products every week. They're targeting $30 billion in revenue for this year alone. It's all built on a landmark $100 billion cloud deal with Amazon, and if they go public, they could be worth close to $1 trillion. That's pretty much the definition of market dominance. This arms race is also creating some pretty strange bedfellows. Apple is completely rebuilding Siri. Remember the old version from 2011? Yeah, that's a dinosaur now. The new one is going to be powered by Google's gigantic Gemini model, giving it on-screen awareness and letting it work across all your apps. But for Siri to get that smart, it needs a lot more than just some clever code. Right. This whole technological war can't run on money alone. It needs two other critical resources, and it needs them in almost unbelievable amounts: raw electrical power and the absolute bleeding-edge hardware that turns all that power into intelligence. On the hardware side, really, it all comes down to one company, NVIDIA. Their brand new Vera Rubin platform is basically the engine of this entire revolution. It's packed with next-gen GPUs and processors built specifically to handle the insane demands of training and running these huge AI models. This is basically the digital gunpowder for the whole war. And all those powerful new chips, well, they create a totally insatiable appetite for energy. It's become such a huge deal, in fact, that the White House is now having to step in. This isn't just a tech problem anymore. It's a national infrastructure and policy challenge. And the government's response has been pretty direct. This quote from President Trump announced something called the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. And what that basically means is the government is telling big tech, look, if you want to build these massive, power-hungry AI data centers, you've got to bring your own power to the party. You can't just drain the public grid and make everyone else's electricity bills go up. So, we've talked about the money, the tech, the power, but every arms race has a human cost. And in this story, the human workforce is starting to look a lot like collateral damage. Okay, remember this number, $200 billion. That's Amazon's planned investment in AI. Just keep that figure in your head for a second. Now look at this number, 30,000. That's roughly how many corporate employees Amazon has laid off in its most recent cuts. The contrast between those two numbers is, well, it's pretty stark. And when you put it all together, the strategy becomes painfully clear. As the investment in machines goes through the roof, the investment in people is heading in the exact opposite direction. It's a direct trade-off. And you don't even have to speculate about it. Amazon's own CEO, Andy Jassy, said it himself. He explicitly connected the rollout of generative AI to the fact that they will simply need fewer people. It doesn't get much more direct than that. So what does all of this add up to? Well, it points to a massive, fundamental shift in how the world's most powerful companies think about AI. This spending isn't for some flashy side project. It's a reclassification of AI into something far more permanent. See, when a business talks about core infrastructure, they mean the absolute essentials. It's the plumbing, the foundation, things like their data centers or their payment systems. It's no longer a speculative R&D experiment. It's a non-negotiable, permanent part of how the business runs. And this isn't just a Silicon Valley thing. Get this. J.P. Morgan Chase, one of the biggest banks on the planet, has now formally reclassified its AI spending, moving it from the research and development column over to core infrastructure. AI has officially moved out of the lab and into the foundation of the global economy, which really leaves us with one final and, I think, crucial question. The titans of tech are spending sums of money that make the Apollo program look small, all to build the infrastructure of tomorrow. There is no doubt they're building the future. But as the machines get smarter and the investments get bigger, you just have to stop and ask, who are they really building it for?